World 100 most influential people. Martin Lindstrom, the author of the best-selling book Biology, who has taught us how to tap into consumers' desires and to find out what makes us tick, hasn't had enough with just telling us the inside secrets of how to tap into our customer's brain. He wants to do more than that. He is now launching a new book called Small Data. And in the book, Small Data, he is teaching people, all of us, giving us the marketing advantage of how to find the tiny clues that uncover huge trends. He's giving us the system, his system of finding out what make people tick and how we can tap into those desires as well. And the leading brands are not happy about this. They do not want their biggest secrets, Martin Lindstrom and his knowledge, out there. They don't want you to have your hands on this book. And so Martin is on the run and we need to find him. This is what this hangout is about, giving you access to the brand, to the man, his brain, his knowledge, and the reasoning why he is sharing all this information with us right now, why he's giving away his secrets, and why he is wanting us to stop obsessing with big data and start looking at small data. So the story about Martin and his new book is that he has been obsessed with Lego since he was a very, very young man, a child actually. And he has been so obsessed with Lego growing up in Denmark, he actually built an entire Legoland in his backyard. He slept on a Lego bed. He had a little hard nuts of Lego in his back because of the way he was sleeping. And he turned his family garden into his own Legoland, attracting visitors from all over the world, even Lego lawyers. And that was his first encounter with branding. And so we are now joined by Martin from an undisclosed location, and we will tap into the reasoning behind Martin's new book release and why he decided to share his knowledge right now with the world. So, hey, Martin.
Hey there, good to see you.
Good to see you too. So, first of all, wow, you are releasing a new book next week, and it is filled with just how to tap into feelings, how to brand love, which is something that even dating sites can do. So how do you get, what is the reasoning? What made you write a book like that?
I'm sick and tired of listening to big data. I mean, I go to any conference in the world and they always mention the word big data 50 times. So I have this bingo, 50 times I'm leaving the conference. I fundamentally believe it's really, really hard to define emotions based on numbers. I mean, I'm sure that you do not define your husband and the love you have with your husband based on the last 4 digits of his cell phone numbers. Are you saying that you really love him because he's 6'7" tall, or that the colors of his hair is the Pantone color 5562? I'm sure you're not saying that, but that's the way big data defines love today. So what I'm trying to do is to go the opposite way, because something is needed, what I call the counterbalance. And that's what I call small data. It's seemingly insignificant observations made in consumer homes, which are disclosing emotional DNA of who you really are. And the book Small Data really has been in the works for almost 10 years, because that's the period I've spent living in consumers' homes across the world. In total, more than 2,000 homes I've been visiting in 77 different countries, which adds up to me living in strangers' homes for full on 2 years. Can you believe it? Talk about being crazy here, right? And it's fascinating because it is everything from homes in Nigeria to the most dangerous favelas in Brazil, where we have the drug squad running after me. I've lived in homes in Saudi Arabia where I had the religious police running after me, and to the most wealthy countries in the world, or even high-profile celebrities and royal families. So it really is it's sort of a ride on an elevator up and down in the society And out of that, I've learned so much stuff about how we live and the emotions we have in the world right now and what it takes to create this counterbalance. And by the way, how you encapsulate emotions.
Which is fascinating because, you know, sometimes we don't even know our own emotions. And so to go and find other people's emotions is, you know, a task in itself, and it's a skill. And your book, which is coming out, guys, next week, but you can reorder right now with a special gift that we'll tell you in a second. Your book actually walks us kind of like a Sherlock Holmes little treasure hunt of how to collect the clues and how to pay attention to the little things. So let's talk about that for a second. How does someone learn to be a detective like yourself and walk into a room and be like, okay, that shoe over there might be the turning point for a brand?
Well, what I'm going to tell you right now sounds strange, but I fundamentally believe that the skill you have, the skill everyone has, which are listening and watching this right now, is called an instinct. And instinct is really not accepted in our society today because it's fluffy. We can't articulate why we feel like that. We just feel like that. But that is the biggest asset you have. And an instinct in my books is an accumulation of knowledge over time where we subconsciously are connecting the dots. We just can't articulate why we feel like that. We just feel like that. Now, when you visit so many homes for so long time, you start to establish an instinct. And that instinct is really to see through walls, as I call it. It's almost strange what I'm telling you right now, but it's almost like I feel what is in the next door room because I've seen it so many times. So I connect all these dots. And I'll tell you some fascinating stuff. I mean, for example, when you walk into someone's homes and you see huge paintings with lots of colors on it, you actually know that that person has a very high level of self-esteem. Now, this is fascinating stuff. We all have 2 or 3 personalities. We have the perception personality, who we would like to be seen as from a world point of view, and then we have our real personality. The perception is really what you see on Facebook, for example. It's not you and I, it's a perception, right? It's not real. And when if you go into the home, you actually have a perception as well. We call that the perception room. And the way you find the perception room, by the way, is to search for the coffee table book. I have coffee table books here as well in this place where I am right now. I don't want to tell you where it is, but a coffee table book, when it's placed in a room, you know, this is the room, which is almost like Facebook. This is where you want to show off to the world. Now, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Listen to this. If you see a huge cupboard or shelves packed with books in the perception room, it means that you're not very literate. It means that you don't have a very high education because you are subconsciously trying to compensate for that and show to the world actually that you have it. So all these clues across the home, everything from how you place the fridge magnets, which is fascinating stuff because every fridge magnet either tells about how you felt in the past, the dreams you want to freeze for a moment, emotions you had, which you want to encapsulate and store, or your hopes for the future. So if you look at the fridge and if you have fridge magnets, this is actually the essence of your life in many ways. As messy as it is, it actually shows a picture into who you are and what is closest to you emotionally. So everything in your home tells a story. That's what I call emotional DNA. And here's the interesting thing. No one has ever disclosed this before. This is the first time I'm walking through the homes across the world and drawing these amazing parallels and opening up your eyes for what we are really all about. And this can't be disclosed by big data. This is small data.
I love it. So I'm going to hit you up with 2 questions to actually challenge what you just said.
Okay.
But before I do, I want to first thank you all for watching us. Right below the video, if you are watching on Small Data Hunt, we will be taking your questions and allowing you to join the Hangout and actually talk to Martin face to face. You're going to get your 5 minutes in the starlight. The Starshine with Martin. So make sure that you join us on Small Data Hunt and type your questions if you have anything right now. Let us know. Do you have a coffee table? And what book do you have on it? Because we want to know. So challenging you about that. I do not have a coffee table or any books on it. And I don't have any fridge magnets. What is that?
Well, you have a background right now, in fact,
I do.
and that background is your fridge magnet blown up in huge proportions so the whole world can see your fridge magnet and your coffee table book. This is your dream right now. I believe this is in Santorini or something in Greece. It looks like that. I think I've been there once doing a speech, in fact, and that's where you're dreaming to be, and you want to project that exotic image to the world. To the whole world instead. Here we go.
I couldn't have said it better myself. This is really my vision board. You're totally correct. I would love to see myself in Santorini one day and actually doing a hangout from there. So nailed it. So once we're talking about that, let's talk about the intimate stuff in people's houses.
Yeah.
One of them in your book, you are mentioning toothbrushes.
Yeah.
And there has been a little discussion with the people who have been privileged to read your book before it's out to the public.
Wow.
And the discussion is, you have a theory about whether or not, what does the toothbrush say about people's sex life?
Yeah.
So I want to ask people, what is your toothbrush like? What does it look like in your bathroom? Is it pointing up or is it pointing down? And while you answer that question, I'm going to have Martin tell us, what does it mean when it's pointing up and what does it mean when it's pointing down?
I'm not going to say anything about that. You can tell the viewers about what it means, and I will add some dimensions to it you don't know, right? So tell your fat what it means.
Okay, so guys and ladies, apparently if your toothbrush is, the head is actually inside the glass, you have more sex than those who have their toothbrush and their head pointing out. And which is very interesting because I don't know anyone who puts the toothbrush down.
No, well, that's probably because people don't have a lot of sex these days then. Why? No, you have to. Well, listen, here's the reality. Subconscious signals are left everywhere. For example, how you place the toilet paper roll. If the toilet paper is hanging on the outside rather than in parallel with the wall, it also indicates if it's the man or the woman who's in control of the home. If it hangs on the outside, in 92% of the cases, it's a man. Or if you have a cover on your bed, it actually shows that you like anticipation and build up momentum in your life. You don't want to go straight to the point. A lot of cushions on your bed, it means you're very romantic. Now, of course, all of these things are not the case for every single person on planet Earth. But what we've learned visiting so many homes, this is a really powerful way of getting a feeling of who we are, what we feel, and of course there's always exceptions. So attack me.
This is fascinating, guys. And as you're watching us, let us know, does this apply to you? Does it not apply to you? We want to hear. So talking about authenticity, transparency, and what our houses and our environment and our backdrops tell about us. There is a trend happening right now where a lot of brands are talking about transparency and authenticity. Yeah. Right? But still, there's like a little level there, right? Like, I want to be transparent, but only with the stuff I want to be transparent about.
Well, first of all, transparency is not healthy for the society. So if I sort of take the elevator up to the highest floor right now and put a perspective on this, people think that transparency is the best thing on planet Earth. It's not. I mean, when you and I went to school, I'm sure you went to school in Israel and I went in Denmark. We all had 23 or 25 friends in the class, which in theory were our competitors. It was a very isolated little universe we had. Today, the young generation have 500 million competitors. And when you go to China, which I've spent a lot of time in, you will notice that the young kids there, they are looking at the Kardashians, and they see how they have fancy cars and planes. They want the same. Suddenly they feel what they have is not good enough. So transparency is really bad for us in our lives. And I talk a lot about what brands are doing to compensate for that, because this is important. Our life is all about being in balance. We all want to be in balance. We all are out of balance all the time. It is that gap between out of balance and being in balance which is reflecting a need for a brand. So the better you are at understanding that out of balance we all have, whether I want to be more popular, I feel I'm too overweight, I feel I'm not funny enough, I feel I'm not literate enough, it's reflecting the need for a brand. And in many ways, what brands have to do right now is to understand that. Now, coming back to transparency in our own life, yes, we need to have zones of privacy. And I think it's fair to say when I spend time with kids and young people and still continue to do that, they do have many different zones of privacy. An average kid, which I've been spending time with, 15 years of age, have six Facebook accounts. So they have many different levels of personalities out there. They have the one parents should see, they have the one the friends should see, they have the one the lovers should see, the secret people, all that stuff. So we have a very sophisticated generation which are working with many different avatars. And that will reflect that we actually will act in many different roles. And I'll tell you a funny thing. In Switzerland, there was a study conducted by something called GDI, which is an institute analyzing people's behavior. And they realized that an average banker in Switzerland, believe it or not, have 10 different personalities. And this is really fascinating. The banker, as trustworthy as that person would be at home with the kids or the wife or the best friends, as untrustworthy that person will be in the job. And in fact, it showed that the person's morale, the work morale and ethics was almost bottom for these Swiss bankers. Yeah, and it was highest at home. So really, they were okay with not telling the whole truth all the time in the workplace. So we're talking about all of us having different personalities and different codes of ethics. I mean, if you're on a dating site, how many is telling the truth about who you really are, how old you are? I'm sure that not one single person was telling the truth out there. That is another role we are projecting to the world. So yes, transparency is transparency with modifications.
It's fascinating because you're right. Right now, when we grew up, there was just one life, right? And it was just us and our family, and then we could be who we wanted with our friends. Yeah. But now, social media and the online allow us to portray ourselves any way that we want to portray ourselves, right? Yeah.
And what's really fascinating, and I'm writing a lot about in the book, actually that phenomenon have a scientific term. It's called enclosed cognition. And enclosed cognition is really a scientific term which comes back to a study done in New York City some time ago where people were given the chance to wear a lab coat. Those 3 different lab coats, one which it had a sign above saying a doctor's lab coat, one where it said a dentist lab coat, and the third one was saying nothing, exactly the same lab coats. When people put on the doctor's lab coat, they became more intelligent, they answered questions faster, their self-esteem went up. The dentist or the dentist went up a little bit, and the average person, so when no sign was above, just the average person, well, there was no difference at all. That means our personality, our self-esteem is really changing or transforming based on what we wear, which is called enclosed cognition. Now, that is happening with our avatars as well, all those different personalities we have. We actually, as we take on a role, change our self-esteem level as well. Now, this is interesting. Brands can do the same, and I'm writing a lot about that in the book, how we did a study with Apple and with Google and with McDonald's. When people are talking about Apple and they think about Apple, they actually become more creative. And the number one word is creativity. So they actually feel they're more creative when they think about the brand. If we put in front of them a brand like McDonald's, the creativity logo go down. And we are knowing that based on scanning people's brains using fMRI, their creativity level go down, but they think faster because it's all to do with fast food. So the enclosed cognition actually is projected from a brand as well. So if I put a logo on my shirt right now and it says a fancy brand name, it actually changed my behavior as well, which is fascinating because that changes my personality and all the different avatars I represent.
It is fascinating because I'm sure everybody is watching us right now think about, okay, how can I instill those type of emotions in my clients so that they feel, more elevated, smarter, more creative when they are using my brand and wearing my shirts? How can you do that?
Well, I think the first step you have to take is to understand or realize that you cannot stand for everything in the world. You really have to be incredibly focused on what your brand stands for. And I typically tend to say you have one word. So if you say Oprah Winfrey, it is compassion. If you say Princess Diana, I would say it probably is peace. If I say Richard Branson, it probably would be rebellious. If I say Donald Trump, depending on if you're Republican or Democrat, you will either say arrogant or you'll say rebellious, right? So you have different words here. But we all own one word. We need to find out what that word is. And it cannot be quality or service or whatever, because those words either are pretty generic or they're already taken. It has to be a word which have an edge to it, because that's the only way we remember ourselves and the world. Now, this is important stuff. The same is the case with brands. I mean, if I say the word search, what brand would you think about?
Google.
Exactly. If I say in the car industry, I say the word safety, what brand would you think about?
Because I'm Israeli. I'm like,
yeah, guys, you can see this is not scripted, right? Because else you would know straight away, right? Well, typically people would say Volvo, right? What it is, and this is interesting. Volvo actually got to this point by hard work. In 1956, they were the first to employ a person from the Swedish Air Force, which invented the three-point seat belts. So they were the first to have the three-point seat belt. They were the first to have them have, and I hate them for this, the seat belt alarm, right? Oh, they were the first to have the airbags in the side of the car, the first to have 24-hour light on the car, the first to use real dummies in the TV commercials. They are, and they actually just recently announced 2 weeks ago that they will create a crash-free car in 10 years, I think, from now. And that's a car, it can go to a crash, but you'll be 100% safe. I mean, that is a statement which the world will never forget, if that's true. Yeah. This shows that they believe in one word, safety. Now, here's my question to you. What is your one word, and how are you going to emphasize that with what you do around that particular word?
I love what you're saying right now. And I know everybody who's watching us probably goes like, how do I get time with Martin to help me figure out my one word? Well, you are in luck, because you can win an hour with Martin, not only an hour with him, but you can also meet him face to face in New York City at the World Business Forum in November if you are the winner of the Small Data Hunt Quest. So to do that, go to smalldatahunt.com, register, start playing the game, and the game will teach you how to start thinking like Martin, how to collect the clues, how to put them together, how to connect the dots. So maybe by the end of it, you start having your one word, and then if you win an hour with Martin, you can really run it by him and finance, like own it. So while we're on that topic, let me just share a few comments that people are saying about what we're talking about right now.
Sure.
So Buck says that he needs to ask his wife about the toilet paper.
Yeah.
And Diane says her toothbrush lies flat on a washcloth.
Okay, yes, fair enough.
Fair enough. And Kristen says that she puts her book away from her children. Is that anything?
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Well, listen, we all have small stories. And I spent some time with one of our partners called Jack Morton Worldwide in New York just recently. And we had all the top planners from the world flying in so we could teach them about the small data methodology. And we asked each of them, this is a fascinating story, we asked each of them to take photos from their home. And of course, some of them had flown in from London, so they didn't have access to the photos from their home. So one guy, he took photos from his hotel room. And it was fascinating because everything was in perfect order. I never seen something like this. The toothbrushes were lined up, the shampoo was like that, the soap was like that, the nail clipper was like that. And I said to him, now when you look at yourself with those photos you're taking and what we talked about in the book and all this stuff, what would you say? And he said, I never thought about this before. I'll tell you why. When I'm at home, I have 2 historical kids. They are messing my entire home into disaster every morning. I've given up on the home. Now I'm far away from home, far away from London. I'm at a place where I can be myself. I'm compensating from being out of balance. So I go to the extreme, and this is my compensation, to be extremely focused on details. And he said, I've never been like this before. It's just now when you tell me that. Now there's another planner who was sitting in the room from Jack Morton Worldwide. And he said to me, he took photos of his hotel room and we're all laughing. And he was laughing about himself because nothing touched the floor in the hotel room. All his things were having, even his cap, he had a hat, was hanging on a little hook in the hotel room. And he was laughing about himself because he never thought about it before. And he realized it was because he felt that he was not grounded. So he wanted to be more grounded. So actually he put everything in the air, because when he was in city, he was not grounded. When he went out of the city, he would be more grounded. And by the way, he was afraid of bacteria. So that came back to the bed bugs, which were very present in New York City some years ago. This shows, and this is interesting stuff, this shows how we all constantly are broadcasting our emotions to the world through all these different types of signals. That's called small data, and that's an incredible important channel you have to tune into in order to understand your consumer, right?
Yes, and so before I jump into that, because this is fascinating, because it shows what you... It's really interesting, right? Because we could basically just stand in front of the mirror, look at ourselves, and if we understand what we're looking at, we can be like, this is how people see me. So if I wanted to see me in a different way, right, then what do I need to do? So before we dive into that specific, guys, I am about to open the Hangout and allow you to jump in and actually have 5 minutes with Martin to ask him any branding question you want.
Exciting.
Right? To do that, you will need to go to smalldata.com and join us in the Hangout. There is a button right below the video, and I'm going to make it active in a second so that you can click it and join us. One request, there's going to be a conversation happening in the Hangout before you join us, so make sure you mute yourself before you dive in so that you don't interrupt the flow. So let's talk about personal branding versus company branding, right? What's the difference between, if any, personal branding, like, I am Oprah named herself, right? Like she went with a personal brand, but she's still a brand, right? So what is the difference between personal branding, corporate branding, company branding? What's the pros and cons, and how do you even go about deciding, this is my person and this is my company?
I have some good news. There's no difference. It actually is merging together more and more. And guess what? The good news is it's personal branding which is going to win, because we can all relate to it. And this is what's so interesting, that I can relate to you right now, you personal, we can have a dialogue, and I kind of like you because of that. But I can't relate to a brand which is stiff, corporate, which have corporate tone of voice, which pretend like they're listening to you, but they really are not. So the human branding, personal branding, is going to be the direction for how corporations are going to deal. And the best way we see that, if you go into Balmain, the fashion house out of Paris, their lead designer, which is a young kid, amazing designer, he actually is a personal brand as well. He's doing all the design. He has more followers, guess this, more followers than Balmain has as a fashion house. When he is exploring trend directions, he talks to his followers, he releases his news on his own Facebook account first, and then Balmain as a fashion house is following him. This is fascinating stuff, because it shows the trend that actually personal branding will drive the way corporate branding will look like in the future. So guys out there, it's very important. Three pieces of advice. One, you have to be very human. You cannot be stiff. And I think the values you need to have should be a little bit in conflict. You should have fun but serious at the same time, because it shows you're a human being. You can't be perfect all the time. Second, you have to be consistent. It's very important. I'm consistent. I'm always dressed in black, as you can see. But also I'm consistent in my messages all the time. And third, you need to have something you become well known for. One thing which clearly stands out. That's what I'm doing with my books. I always focus on brand, and I always try to be one step ahead of the crowd, inventing everything from sensory branding to neuromarketing to the term small data to contextual branding, contextual marketing. All that stuff is terms I've invented over the years in order to make sure I'm one step ahead. So these are the advice. Tell me, in fact, there is a guy down in my screen here, which is sitting down there. I just saw a live photo saying Bok. Is that a person we have to talk to?
Yes, we have to talk to him. Hey, Bok. We can't really.
Bok, you're this big, just so you know, on my screen. It's not fair, and your fatsy's this big. Oh, now it's reversed. Good to meet you.
Can you guys hear me okay? Hi, Martin. It's very nice to meet you. Thank you
Likewise.
for this call.
Where are you in the world? Tell me.
I am in, well, I'm showing off a couple things. I don't know if you can read that. It says Boulder CrossFit, so I'm in Boulder, Colorado. It's a
fantastic,
beautiful sunny day here, and I'd love to invite you to come out to Boulder and maybe go skiing or hiking or biking with us. Thank you so much for doing this. I did sort of invite a few of my friends to join us, so hopefully they're listening in as well. And I did also a plug for your other book.
Oh, that's nice of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this kind of work and sharing this. I am an online marketer.
Yeah.
So my company, I sell products direct to consumer. I have a lot of women that we sell to in a lot of this in the weight management category. Okay. And so I had a few questions for you, and really fascinated by some of the things that you mentioned. One sort of started with a general question is, how can an online marketer use small data? Because you talked a little bit about going into people's homes and noticing things and getting some intuition. How could an online marketer like me use it?
That's a very good question. And because you are working in the weight loss category, I'm going to tell you a fascinating story from small data, because I worked a lot with that category. What I've learned is that when you want to lose weight, it has nothing to do with physical aspect. It's to do with your mind. You know that already. Yep. But you need to create a tangible evidence that actually you're getting somewhere. And the biggest problem with weight loss is that it's not tangible. I mean, the horizon is so long before you reach patience, and an average person typically is losing the patience after 9 days. Now, how do I know that? I know that because I went into consumers' homes in San Diego a couple of years ago, where I interviewed a young lady, wonderful lady, and I said to her, tell me about your life. And as she was talking about her life and how she had struggles losing weight, she was touching her wrist a lot. And she had this bracelet. And I said to her, what's wrong with that bracelet? Tell me about that. And she told me that her son had been in the war, and actually he unfortunately passed away. And I said, I'm really sorry about that. I said, tell me a thing. I'm sorry I'm going down this topic, I said to her. But tell me, what would happen if you lost this bracelet? Right. And she said, my life would collapse. And I said, that's interesting, because that is a symbol for him there, right? Yes. Now, as I then went around the world, I had that in mind all the time. I went to Middle East. I noticed whenever people felt guilty, they would touch their wrist, they would touch these charms here. And I was observing all those small data all the time. And one day I realized, as I was observing people in Turkey, that when they were doing prayer sessions or touching the wrist, I realized, hey, this is a concept. Why don't we create a bracelet which is almost like a religious pledge? So when you are giving your fans or your consumers or your customers your diet product, you're saying to them, I would like to give you this little bracelet. There's nothing on it, but whenever you're losing a pound, you get a little charm or a little bead you can put on. And then you correct your little collection. You get a little collection of all these symbols showing that you are losing weight. And by the way, I know you've been to a party yesterday, you drank a lot, you know, everything was bad, you put on half a pound, you get one saying, out of jail, it's okay, you can put it on, right? So as we did that, I realized building up this whole collection of those small beads suddenly was the evidence of I achieved something in my life. And guess what? The loyalty went up more than 100%. This is evidence of picking up those small data in people's homes when you observe the behavior can certainly help you. Now, back to your question about selling things online.
Sure.
There's 3 things I would do. The first thing I would do is that you need to understand, how do people actually explore and find your product online? I need to ask you a question. Have you ever been to 3 random people's homes, people you don't know at all? You've just been sitting next to the screen and observing them how they were searching for products in your category?
No, I haven't. I mean, we've done some surveys to say, you know, how did you find us, that sort of thing, but it's very at a distance.
Exactly, and that is the problem, because if I was to ask women, for example, what they're doing in the bathroom during the morning from 7 to 7:30, which I've done, and then typically they will say to me, well, then I go to shower, go to the bathroom, I put on my makeup, and then I leave. And I'm saying, so how much time do you use in the shower, how much time do you use on makeup? And they will say 10 minutes. Then I'll say, what you're saying is not true, because they actually spent 45 minutes in the bathroom. They would not be aware of that, but I know that because I've been observing them.
Where's the lost time?
Where's 15 minutes? And as I'm observing them, I would realize that they have a ritual of how setting their hair, which is 6 stages of setting the hair, which takes 40 minutes on average. The same as young girls in Europe are spending in average, or taking in average 17 selfies of themselves every morning in order to coordinate their clothes with their best friends. Now, that observation you cannot nail down in a form because people, first of all, think they're stupid. Secondly, they've forgotten about it. It's almost like wallpaper. You can't remember what you did this morning when you put on your clothes and what leg you're using to put into your pants, right?
Yes.
Because it's a wallpaper experience. So you need to observe them in front of the computer. That is the first step. What you will realize here is, Bok, you realize that they do odd things. They do things we'll say, gee, do they really go to that website before they go to mine? Do they really skip that page on my website, which I thought was so good? Number one. Number two.
Some of this is analytics, and some of this might be recording what they're doing, and some of it might be observing them physically doing what they're doing.
You just observe them. And in fact, if you are good at this, you spend a whole day with them. Yeah. Because you will then realize, for example, as I did when I worked with weight management, that people which are on a diet, they sit and watch the fridge. They're working, they look at the fridge, they go up to the fridge, they inspect the fridge for 30 seconds, they conclude there's nothing in the fridge. Listen to this. They go back again, they work for around 20 minutes. Do you know what they do then? They go back to the fridge again. They open the fridge just as something would magically disappear and come into this fridge. And there's nothing in the fridge. They will re-inspect it again. Now this is interesting because we are changing our behavior all the time. No one will tell you about this in a survey because they'll think they're nuts. But this is human beings. I mean, this is the same as why do you knock on wood? Why do you touch wood? Well, do we believe in it?
Just in case.
No, but just in case. Well, if I ask you why, you will say, it doesn't work, and I'll say, well, does it mean you won't do it the next time? And you'll say, I will do it the next time. Well, that's not logic, right?
Right.
And this is the case with us. You cannot ask people, you have to observe it. So this is number one. Number two is, when you work with online, you need to find out where do people go before they go to your place, because it is an out of balance thing. Yes. I might actually go to a website where it's all about food first, and I'll feel so incredibly guilty that I'll go to your site to have a compensation going on, or opposite. So find out where the traffic comes from and where it's going to, because it will be completely counterintuitive to what you think.
Okay.
Number three, make it become a game. When you send things to people, your goal should not be to sell it to them. Your goal should be to retain them, because it costs 10 times more to get a customer than actually to keep them. And you know that, I know that. But what you have to realize is you need to motivate them. So every day there needs to become a message. I'll give you an example. Okay. If you take Mini, the car, when you're ordering a mini car and there is a waiting time for it, and the waiting time will be 3 months or 6 months or whatever, people have no patience today. So what do Mini do? They send you a message halfway through and they're saying to you, I am on the ship right now. It's freezing cold. I miss you. I will be with you in 6 weeks.
From the car.
From the car. I'm not kidding. Yeah. And when you send your Mini to the repair, right? And it comes back, there will be a sign on the steering wheel saying, I missed you.
Wow. Okay.
And this is the essence. All of this stuff was revealed and discovered based on small data. And that is my message to you guys. You don't know who your consumer is. We have to get our hands dirty and get into their homes, right?
Okay, so a follow-up question. I know we've got a bunch of other people jumping on, so it's great. So Martin, thank you. My question is, how can we train ourselves to notice these clues?
Yeah.
And interpret what they mean, because it's obviously there's some science behind what you're doing and experience doing this quite a bit. Is that explained in small data?
Yeah. Well, it is.
Martin, hold on a second. I'm going to do a little pitch here.
Okay.
Two things, guys. One, this book will walk you step by step through it, but it's not enough to read, right? We want you to actually practice and get the experience. So 2 things. One, if you pre-order this today, you will get 2 videos. I'm just pimping you out, Martin, right now. Okay. 2 videos that walk you through step by step, or like really Martin's system. His system is called the 7 C's, and you will learn about all that stuff from the book and from the videos. But we want to do more. We really want you to practice, because if you don't practice, then it's just going to be another book and you'll forget about it. And we want you to do it with peers, which is why we designed the small data hunt. It will take you step by step through discovering these clues and connecting the dots. So the first thing you want to do right now, A, pre-order the book. because if you do now, then you will get these 2 videos that will not be available when the book comes out next week. The second thing after you pre-order the book is join Small Data, so you can start practicing that and making it part of your habits and your daily practice. And now you can give your answer, Martin.
Thank you.
Well, that was a commercial break. I have to say.
Drink of water.
Yeah. Well, sorry about that, guys. I hope you didn't go to the toilet in the meantime. But listen, I'll be very honest with you guys. All the books I've written, I have not held back anything. I'm not saying to people, I don't want to share everything with you because I want to keep my secrets. I've learned one thing, that is the more I share with people, the more I get back. And I love it. I really love it because it makes me grow. It makes me see things in a different way. I'll give you 1 or 2 pieces of advice. And it's very scary what I'm going to tell you right now. I don't have a cell phone anymore. Yeah, I know it's like
getting up email, but
yeah. I mean, this is like, you know, going to AAA right here and revealing the truth about yourself. But this is really the reality, because I was not present, and I want to be present. Now, I know a lot of people can't do it. Probably most people in the world can't do that. Can help me, but what you can do is 3 things. 1, go to the airport. When you're standing in the airport or sitting in the airport, close your eyes and then try to imagine people around you. Imagine what you're seeing without seeing, and then open your eyes after 1 minute and see if you're right. Close your eyes again and start to listen, start to increase your sense of hearing, because that will make you become more aware, number 1. Number 2, become bored. Don't grab your phone whenever you're waiting for someone because you look like a loser and you have nothing to do and no one around you. Stop grabbing your phone. It's not a standby mechanism. Just observe people. Number 3, make sure that within the next week you spend just 1 hour in a random person's home, and you go around the home with the person's permission. You open the fridge, you open the cupboard, all that stuff, and you learn. And if you do that all the time, you slowly increase that skill set, and it will not take you more than a month, and you'll realize things. Of course, you can read the book and 7 C's and all that stuff. It's a methodology which have taken me at least 10 years now to develop, and I spend a lot of time thinking about what is that instinct I'm trying to defragment here. But I really hope that you can use it, right?
Thank you, Martin. And it sounds like a little bit of mindfulness practice would come in.
Yeah,
as well, right?
It is. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir, very much. Look forward
Thank you.
to
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm not apologizing for the commercial break, because this book is very valuable. And when you read it, you'll feel like you're a detective, exactly like Martin is. So once, now that I'm not apologizing, I'm becoming Donald Trump. I'm not apologizing for it.
Yeah, that's a new trend, isn't it? Yeah.
I don't want to look like him. But let's ask Diane. Diane, how you doing, lady? How are you?
Hi, Michael. I'm so excited.
Oh, thanks, Diane. Good to see you.
Thank you. Let's see. I'm getting ready to transition from a career that I'm in, and I think I was doing a lot of the things that you have mentioned. Like with my business, I do massage therapy, but I put a lot of money back in it. I always change a little something in my home or my room.
Yeah.
Because I work from home, and I think my image was, to keep it fresh, and I'm always learning new things, so I always share with my clients, and they always go, I learn something new every time. And I go, that's what I want.
Oh, cool.
I want to educate people, but now I want to transition, because that's hard work, physical work.
Yeah.
And do I need a brand? I mean, I have one, I guess. It's people's perception, and that really
Diane, what business do you want to transform into?
Well, I think I want to get into coaching more, where I'd rather do one-on-one, but I know how to do Google Hangouts too, so this is a lot of fun with a small group.
Yeah. Well, listen, Diane, it's very important for me to say a couple of things. First of all, you're a wonderful person, and I can feel that. Your energy is going through the camera, so that's good to see, and I really mean that. I want to say a couple of things. First of all, you need to trust yourself more and believe in the talent you have. And I think the issue is right now, as you're scaling your business, that you become too dependent on physical interaction. And I think you need to understand what is it which are making you different. And the best way to find out is to talk to your existing customers. Ask them, be honest with me, if you should sort of say two things about me. One is, what's the one word you would associate with me? And the second thing you should ask them is, what makes me different from anyone else? What you will realize is what they're saying is very different from what you think. And that will actually be the heart of what your brand is, because remember, reality has become perception, or perception is reality, sort of merging together, right? So you need to understand what they think about you. That's the first thing. The second thing you have to do is you have to create what I call a somatic marker. Now, somatic marker was developed by Antonio Damascus out of Portugal, which is a neuroscience scientist. And Antonio Damascus created this amazing methodology where he said, if something dramatic happens in your life, it creates a virtual bookmark in your brain. Now, I'm pretty sure you remember where you were during 9/11. You remember not only who you were with, you also remember if you called someone. Is that true?
Where I was, I didn't call anybody, but oh, actually, I think I did.
You did?
Because my husband likes to fly, and the airplanes hit the towers, so I think I did call him.
You called him, yeah. Isn't that amazing? You remember something, such a disastrous day, but you remember something exactly at that moment. That is called a negative somatic marker. You can have negative, or you can have positive somatic markers. A somatic marker is a bookmark so dramatic in your brain you'll never forget it. Now, in a very, very small scale, without any comparison, you need to create a somatic marker. I think the problem you have is that you're tweaking things in your life, but people never see the change. You see the change, but they don't see the change. Right. So you need to create a dramatic somatic marker. Now that could be like what I do. I'm writing a book. Or it could be I'm doing a TV show on NBC, but it can also be smaller scales. You do something which is really different. Now, what I tend to say is you have to combine two ordinary things in a new way. So I said, I want to stand for brands, but there was a lot of branding people out there when I started this 25 years ago. So I said, I want to be brands, and I want to be the internet in 1994. So I was the first to build brands on the internet back in 1994. I was the first to say brands in the census, which became brand sense. I was the first to say brand and science, which becomes neuroscience and neuromarketing. So what is your two components you're combining in an odd new way? And then once you have that, how do you communicate that where you become the true owner of it, where that is your key message? Your website become well known for that. It may be you try to get access to the newspaper. You create blogs around it, but you become well known for that. It may be you become well known for reading people's emotional state when you give them some therapy, and you give them a top 7 things of what they have to do. Or maybe you create them a roadmap for how to move on in their lives. Or maybe you can analyze the stress level and give them ways to change stress. Stress is so big in North America right now. Maybe you become the anti-stress person using your therapy. But that is what you have to stand for. So that's the second thing. The third thing is team up with other people. Find out who else has the audience you want to get hold of, but they're not competing with you. So they can send traffic to you, and you send traffic to them. And you start to create these virtual communities, because you cannot work in isolation. And I'm sure you do that a little bit with Google Hangout, but you have to do it much more systematically. You have to go out on the streets, you have to find and team up with people, and make that become a systematic way of exchanging things. So that's a free piece of advice I'll give you, Diane.
Awesome stuff. Awesome.
Thank you.
I love that advice. I just want to add one little thing.
Sure.
I love it that you don't have a cell phone, because I first got one this last summer, but I turned it off a lot.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? I've been predicting this trend for around 6 years now, that there will be a large and larger community in our world which will opt out of being on the grid all the time. You could actually take that ownership and go out and communicate that in the media about how do you actually get on a cell phone detox, and you become the owner of that concept. That's your concept. Run with that, because I think a lot of people will sign up to that straight away, right?
And also, I don't wear a wristwatch, and I don't think I think I had one in high school once, and people cannot believe that I can tell the time within about 5 minutes or less.
Yeah, and you can. Do you know why? Because you believe in your instinct, and our instinct is diminishing the less present we are, because then we start to trust other sources all the time, and suddenly we disconnect. It's the same as we can't remember cell phone numbers anymore. I mean, I remember one number. We actually, there was a neuroscience study done on this. They scanned the brain using fMRI and realized when people had to remember numbers of fact, we went to a place which really was indicating that we were storing the messages and the knowledge in Google. It's almost like we are outsourcing it to an external hard drive. And actually, I'm going to write an article about that in New York Times a couple of weeks from now on how we do the same with the selfies we're taking. We are storing emotions on a hard drive. So this is scary stuff, and you can be the owner of detoxing people away from that.
I love it. I love it. And I'm also studying neuroscience, so you really have me excited.
Remember?
I'm reading neuroscience right now, so that's my next.
Oh, fantastic.
That is so cool.
Thanks a lot. Good to see you.
Thank you.
So before we jump to the next person here, Martin, one of the main things that you ask us to do is going to strangers' home.
Yeah.
Aside from picking locks, how can we do that?
Well, in many different ways. A stranger's home doesn't have to be a person which is so stranger that there is no 6 degrees of separation to the person. If you can choose to have a friend which is finding a friend, and then it's okay. The trick here is the person should not be aware of who you are. So you should not know the person, and the person should not know your identity. Because if you represent a brand or an image, the person will find it uncomfortable to tell you negative stuff. And actually, you should not reveal or disclose who you are or where you're from and what you're working with. You should not show fancy brands. You need to be in complete neutral. So the conversation is as perfect as possible, where you're not showing off, but where you actually are talking from person to person. But it's pretty easy, actually. I would have to say that the biggest challenge I have is not to get hold of people. We're lining them up. You can go to SurveyMonkey and you can do a study there. You can actually just team up with people on Hangouts or whatever and get access to them. Of course, you have to pay some money to do it, $20, $30, $100, depending on where in the world you are. But my advice is try it just once. It's scary, I tell you, it's scary as hell. But you will tell me later on, I learned so much from it, right?
Okay, guys, that's your challenge.
Yeah.
So our next lady, Angela. Angela, how are you? Do you know how to mute? Unmute?
Yes.
There you go. Hello, welcome.
Angela.
Hi there. Hi, Martin. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and it's been great so far. I've been thinking about what is my one word.
Yeah.
My challenge is that I come from a real estate background.
Okay.
And I've been out of it for a number of years now. And my role there, though, was to train real estate agents for mega agents, to train their teams.
Oh.
And so when I came out of the industry, you know, I've been thinking actually for a few years now, how can I take that background and my own personal desires, because I really wasn't congruent with real estate. My thing is more about how to overcome lids of complacency.
Yeah.
How, you know, what are the step-by-step processes that highly successful people use in order to bust through their lids of complacency and achieve high levels of success.
Yeah.
And so that's been my number one focus for my whole life. And now I've come up with a good plan for how I can marry those two things together, because I was very good at the real estate training and real estate sales. And so now I've come up with a process, and I'm very excited about it. I want to launch my program. It's a high dollar program to mega agents to help them build their teams. And now my challenge is that I have neglected social media. I'm a serious-minded person. That's one thing I have in common with real estate agents. They're very, very focused. They've got blinders up and they're driven. That's something that I share with them. And as a consequence of that, I've completely neglected social media. So I have a Facebook page, but I think I've posted on it maybe twice in the last, since I opened it up years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So I really virtually have no presence except for within a database of about 2,000 agents. I have a very high level presence there because I had earned a great deal of respect there in a metropolitan area in Los Angeles.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
well, listen, Angela, this is good news. The good news is, first of all, that you have 2,000 sign-ups in your newsletter or in your database. That's the good news, because then you have a platform, because it sounds like these people really like you. Is that fair to say?
I would say so, but the database is actually from when I was in real estate. I haven't made a lot of contact with them for a while now.
How long time ago is that?
2007 for a lot of them, but a lot of them, you know, some of the bigger ones that I work directly with, I've maintained friendships with for all these years.
Yeah. Well, okay, Angela, I'm going to warn you here. There is a lot of hard work you have to go through right now. It's possible. Don't be disencouraged here, but you have to do a lot of hard work. So let me just take you through the 3 steps. The first step is build on what you already have. If you have a database of 2,000 people, most likely today, I would say that there's only 25% which is active. The rest have changed.
About 700 active.
You do. Oh, that's good news. So you have 700 active. Now you also have 1,300 which still love you, but they just can't get hold of you anymore because you have disconnected. You need to do a little bit of a research work in order to find them. That there's different websites you can reach out to, and you can give those data again with permission and all that stuff, and ask them to identify where these people are, because they are really valuable for you, because that's your foundation. They love you already, but you just don't have a contact with them. I would find a website or services which can help you to identify those individuals, so you can grow your 700 to perhaps 12 or 1,300. That's number one. Number two, you have to grow your platform. And the way you grow your platform is a couple of things. First of all, you need to have something new to say. So you need to package your knowledge from when you are training all these real estate agent officers into bite-sized information, which on one hand is really, really interesting. On the other hand, is very simple, and you need to give a little piece of advice every day about what you learn, what works, what doesn't work, and even better, to tie it in with the news in the media or things happening in the local community. So you actually have to create what I call an editorial calendar. An editorial calendar is every day there's a little piece of new coming out from you, which are giving advice about that little aspect of what you know so much about. And then you create a dialogue about it. And it has to be so simple that people want to share it. What I've learned from my own social media presence, with the great team I have behind me, of course, and thanks to them, by the way, is you need to create simple quotations, simple quotes, which are saying a philosophy, which are revealing a philosophy about what you learned. Only perhaps 15, 16, 17 words with a picture of you, shareable. You can put it on Instagram, on your map, on your wallpaper, and people will share it a lot. I mean, every time I do that, I have 600 to 1,000 people immediately sharing it. And I think you can do exactly the same, but you need to make it bite-sized. So create an editorial calendar. Make sure you create content which is very, very bite-sized and shareable. That's the first thing you have to do. Second, make sure you now create communities where you can exchange your knowledge, as we're doing right now, with a smaller group of those former colleagues you have or friends you have, and say to them, hey, hang out with me. Let's take 100 people. I'm giving you a free session for half an hour where we're going to talk about the challenges you have. And by the way, in return, I would love you guys if you can spread this message so you have your friends signing up. If you can sign up 10 other friends, you get free access to my next training session. Then you use that mechanism to grow your base so it becomes bigger and bigger. At some stage, you hit the tipping point. That's where it grows by itself and you don't need to do it anymore, but you have to create a platform. The next step you have to do now is, of course, to say the one word, as we talked about with Bob later on. I basically said, what is the one word you want to stand for? And I'm not clear about that. If that is expertise, it is real. What is your one word? Tell me about that.
What I've come up with so far is freedom expert. Okay. Because my program is about freeing real estate agents. They are bonded to their business. They have a business that they can't sell, okay. A business that provides no retirement, yeah. A business that they have team members that aren't functioning, and essentially they're working for their business and their business is not working for them.
But that's a fantastic platform. I like it. I don't like your words, but I like what you're saying, right?
I came up with freedom just now on this call. And I thought, I don't really like it either, so I came up with break free. But my business is motivation on demand.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Website. That's my business, motivation on demand.
You are definitely on the right track here. So what you have to do is you need to do a program which is a training program where you talk to people every day and give them nuggets about how they break free, but only give them a little bit of nuggets and then help to migrate them into your training platform. You also should, and we talked about that previously with the other lady, Diane, I think it was, that you have to team up with partners out there. You cannot do this alone. So what I would do is to find some strong partners which can help you to drive traffic. I'm doing that myself. I mean, I have Jack Morgan worldwide, I have Vision Critical, I have Fractal Analytics, I have lots of different partners around the world which are driving traffic to me. They should not be competitors to you, but they should be complementary. Think about who would actually fit into your scheme. Who out there is giving advice about certain things which are fitting you very well, but they're not competing? There must be someone. And then team up with these people so you can get access to their platform, drive traffic to them, to you, and then in return you can give them content because they need content and you have great content. That is really the 3 steps I'll take you through. Now this is not easy because you'll have to spend at least 3 months to increase your platform from 700 to 12 or 1300 doing the research. You have to develop an editorial calendar which is really solid, and you have to spend at least 2 or 3 hours every day to basically make sure the ball is rolling, right? But once you're up running, you have your platform, and that is actually your platform to break through of your past.
My question is while I'm building my platform, should I LinkedIn is where I have the most connections to my database. You know, they've actually all reached out to me. Like I said, I've completely neglected.
Yeah. How many followers do you have on LinkedIn? Do you know that?
You know what, I don't. I would say I probably have about 300 connections, maybe.
Okay, good. And how often do you post something on LinkedIn?
I don't think I ever have.
Angela, this is not very good what you're saying. I don't want to hear more, right? Here's the reality. The more frequent you post on LinkedIn, the higher ranking you get. The higher ranking you get, the more people will hear about your news and you'll go outside your follower database, right? So you have to post at least once a week, preferably twice or 3 times a week. If you don't do that, you go down and people will just forget about you. This comes back to the editorial calendar. The content you are disclosing on LinkedIn is completely different from Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The content has to be 500 words, 600-word articles or interesting insights which have more meat in it so you can be more sophisticated in it. Make sure you team up in networks there so you spread your word through groups in there. But once you do that, you actually are tapping into a very valuable community. And I have to tell you, I see that myself. I have thousands of followers there, and we get so much response whenever I publish an article, which I do around 2 or 3 times a week at the moment, right?
So do you think I should focus primarily on Twitter and then and LinkedIn and Twitter?
I think the most serious channel for your audience is LinkedIn. I think the way you create attention and drive traffic to LinkedIn is through Twitter. So I think that would be one way. Twitter is those small messages. I would actually also say that your target group, is that mainly women or men?
More men than women, but a lot of women also.
Okay, well that's good news, because if it's men, they are not as strong on Instagram, then it's more Twitter and LinkedIn. If it's more women, it's more Instagram. So I think that you're on the right track. However, I would build up the Instagram part because I think people like to collect knowledge using those stamps of images, right? So yeah, I think you're on the right track, Angela, but I tell you there is a lot of work now ahead, and I'm just warning you because you cannot relax now. This is the most important period of transition in your life right now. So at least 9 months of hard work, 12, 16 hours every day to build your platform, right?
I'm doing the 12, 16 hours already. I have to force myself to break away and go to sleep. So
yeah, I know it's hard.
With that. I just need to make sure that I'm focusing on the 20% that give me the return the quickest.
Does it help, the advice I've given you? Is it of any help?
Yes, I think it does help. The challenge that I have is that those things are, I have been believing that working on what I'm working on now are the 20%. And now I feel like, those things are the 20%. And I'm not sure which ones I should let go of. Like I'm in the middle of a book that I'm writing, Peace SWOT, The 7 Unavoidable Steps of Highly Successful People. Yeah. I'm getting my website up and going. I'm launching the program. I thought about, I'm going to start making some cold calls and sell the program, which I'm outlining and getting that out. You know, I'm just working on everything.
Yeah.
I'd like to outsource some things, and the program will bring in enough revenue to be able to do that. The challenge is I don't really know how much to pay good people.
No. Well, Angela, let me just say 2 minutes of advice on the book and what you're doing right now. Yes, you have to focus a lot on your time, because right now you're burning your candle in both ends, and that's tricky. First of all, great, you're writing a book. I would definitely recommend you to do that. I have to tell you that writing the book is this much effort, publishing it is this much. That means that you are spending around 10 times more energy of publishing it and getting it out than actually to write it. So I want to warn you, the book will not publish itself. No matter if you get a publishing house or not, mark my words, you will have to do the whole work. The only way you can do that is to build your own social platform. If you will not get a publishing house unless you have a social platform, you need an agent, by the way, as well. I would not recommend you to do self-publishing. Sorry, guys, I know a lot of my author friends are telling me that, and I agree with them. You have to go through a publishing house. You need to find an agent first. It will take you time. You'll be very frustrated, believe me. But once you have an agent and they found a publisher, you at least have distribution in order. Then you need to have a platform. The stronger platform you have, the more likability it is that you will get a publishing deal. If you have a weak platform, you won't get it anymore. So you need to have at least 10, 15, 20,000 followers before they think that you are interesting. So it really is a catch-22 you are in right now. Write your book. Spend 2 hours on it every day. Don't spend more. Make sure you build a social platform. Spend 3 hours on that. Make sure you develop the content. That will take another 4 or 5 hours every day, and then extend your network. That will take 1 to 2 or 3 hours. That's the way you split your time for the next 9 to 12 months. The book will take you at least 2 months to get, or 2 years to get out from now on, at least. So don't go into panic, because it's a slow process, right?
Yeah, I'm in chapter 3 right now, so. And it's all outlined. I've got a 26-page outline. Well, let me ask you a question. If I build my platform,
I love you. This is awesome, but we are running out of time, and I got more to share.
If I build my platform over the next 3 months to 10,000 people, will you introduce me to an agent for my book?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's
and
a
how
deal.
can I contact you to do that?
You just go into to either my team. You can see them on the screens. You go into martinlindstrom.com. You refer back to the conversation here, and you have a promise. 10,000, and I'll introduce you to an agent. If he's saying yes or no, I don't know, but I'll certainly introduce you to my agent.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Yafat. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
You too.
So I really enjoyed the conversation, which is awesome, taking people away, you know, focusing them, especially with book writing and self-publishing. But I want to respect everybody's time, especially you. So we have a few more people here. Clint, how are you?
Ooh, microphone.
Yes, there we go.
There we go. Hi, Clint.
Yeah, hey, Martin. Good to talk with you.
Likewise.
My first question for you, you're talking about the personal brand, which is something I help business owners do on the content side, their books, if that's an appropriate point for them to develop right now, and then making sure that all aligns with Google and their digital footprint. What do you have? You talked about the one word. Do you have a tool or some kind of exercise that you like to do to help people get clear on what that one word and brand for them should be?
Well, I think it's very simple, and that comes back to the small data again, because I think you're too close to the forest to see the trees, meaning it's hard for us to know what word we stand for. So whether you are a brand appealing to the business community, to the B2B, or you are appealing to ordinary consumers, you need to ask them, and you need to ask them in person. And basically sit with them and have a conversation. And what I would do up front is to create a deck of words. All of the words should be not the normal ones. They should be on the edge. They should be provocative. They should have an opinion. They should be different. And let's say you have a deck of 100 different words, and you ask people to sort them in 3 different piles. One is definitely not, one is so-so, and one is definitely yes. And then once you have a pile of, let's say, 5 to 10 different words, you then will have to ask them to explain what does each word stand for, what does each of those words stand for. And as people express that, you'll notice that slowly after talking to 4 or 5 or 6 people, you'll actually suddenly know what your one word is. I guarantee you, you'll find out after 3 or 4 small data interviews, right?
Now, should those be, you said B2B or B2C, should those be potential clients that you're talking to, or just random people is okay?
I think it can be both. If you have clients, definitely you should talk to them. And I think that 2/3 of your study should be with existing clients. It's very important you stress that you want them to be honest, and that they promise you that they're honest, because they'll just say things to be nice. And then the 1/3 will be where you explain what your business model is, what you're offering, and then you let them ask questions, and then you say, I have an exercise. Then you have both points of view. Either one point of view is what your existing customers are thinking. The other one is how good are you at articulating what you stand for, and what is the essence of what you're saying in their minds based on that one word they're picking up, right?
Okay. And so with that 2/3, 1/3, that applies when you talked about going into people's homes?
Yeah, it does. It does, absolutely.
Okay. And what is that process? You said just walk through their entire house and looking in their closets and...
No, the process is, it really depends on what you want to find out. But what I typically do is, and of course this is a 7D manifesto process, which your fact just mentioned some minutes ago. But the first thing I do is always to observe the home as I walk in, to talk about the artwork. I mean, you have an interesting artwork in the back. What is the reason why you have that?
I love Van Gogh's work.
There we go. So why do you like that?
I guess it reminds me a lot of my own mind. I'm very visual. I've got lots of things going on at the same time, so it seems busy, yet it's also very beautiful, and there's a certain order to it.
Exactly. I would have said exactly that about you, funny enough. Seen right now, I think many people will find it fascinating that in fact your mirror of your personality is on the painting behind you, which is not a coincidence. That is how small data works. Every single thing, every single piece of small data in your home is revealing a story about your true personality. So just by talking about a painting, I'll be able to go very deep into your childhood, what issues you had when you were a kid, when you grew up, what was holding you back, what your dreams were, why you didn't achieve your dreams, or where you achieved your dreams. And suddenly I know a lot about you. And that will also tell me a lot about what is my consumer looking like. What is it they're looking for, where are they out of balance, and what can I give back to make them get into balance. So this is really the way you are working with it. Does this make sense?
It does. And I do have to say my ears are large, but I like both of them. So I'm gonna
there we go.
I guess one final thing that I jotted down is a lot of business owners have that very entrenched mindset and behavior patterns about advertising and some of the old ways that were done. You talked about more showcasing that human face of the company, and either the owner, the executives, the leaders, or even some of their employees that they want to put out at the forefront to give that human face to the company. Is there a way to bridge that gap between the business owner's mind and established behaviors to the new way that people are attracted to companies? Is there a way to bridge that gap and communicate that so they get more on board with the new way to attract customers and promote more of the personal brand?
It's very hard. It's very hard, and because corporations for almost 100 years have been of the mindset that they wanted to have a distance to consumers. They want to protect themselves. We want to trademark and copyright things. We have non-disclosure agreements. So there's this huge, thick Chinese wall created between the company and the population. And right now, most companies are putting makeup on the wall, pretending like we're talking the consumer language, pretending like we're listening to them, but in reality we're not. So what you are facing here is a conflict between perception and reality, and that has to change. So here's the way you do that. The first thing you do is to take the executives from the company, whether that's a small company, a big company, into the homes of the consumer. And as you do that, and they will, by the way, go against you. They will tell you this is ridiculous, it's a waste of time, why should we do that? We have reports, but you force them. And then you say, listen to this, and you will be shocked to learn what you're seeing. I'll give you an example. One of the biggest food companies in the world, I had a discussion with the CEO of the company some time ago, and he had a report with 17,000 people interviewed. And he was very proud of it. He talked about that for hours. That afternoon, we went into a home in Shanghai, in China. Him and I, we were staying in the home for half a day, and there was just a mind-blowing interview. I tell you, we just learned so much from this. The day after, we had a board meeting, and the board asked him, so tell me what's the latest reporting saying. And he said, we just did a report with 17,000 people, but that's not relevant. I want to tell you about the 2 visits. And he went on talking about these visits for half an hour at the board, right? And that tells everything. It tells you that human interaction, no matter how strategic and left-brained we are, we're always affected by the human insight. And that is the way you persuade the staff or the employees of the company to realize how important it is to pick up those small data out there. Because when they come back again, they'll say, hey, we're sitting here sending out a newsletter, believing that's fixing our image. Everyone is saying they want to chat with us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and Hangouts and whatever, and they're not there. We're not there. What are we doing wrong? And they will realize the world are seeing you completely different. And that will create a movement internally. And then, of course, you will push to that movement and say to them, hey, guys, why don't we take 3 steps? Step 1, let's create a presence. Step 2, let's allocate 2 or 3 people which are passionate about this internally. Step 3, let's create an editorial calendar, as we just talked about recently. All that stuff. But use the consumer as your weapon to persuade companies to change their mindset.
Gotcha. Yeah, third-party credibility is always a huge piece.
It is. It is. No, they won't trust you. They won't trust me. They trust the end consumer. And I tell you, time after time, at least I've been so fortunate to turn around the biggest companies in the world using this methodology. So if it works for the big companies in the world, I'm sure it also works for the companies you represent, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Well, good to meet you. Thanks for the questions. Pleasure.
I love your non-BS approach, Martin. Just have to throw it out there. It's kind of like, look, Angela, this is going to be hard. Look, people, this works for them, and it's going to work for you. I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's refreshing, and it's really nice, and it gives us concrete actions of what we can do right now to improve our brands. So last but not least, I know we're running out of time, but Kristen is here.
Yeah.
And hey, Kristen, how are you? Just
Can you hear
unmute.
me?
Yes.
Great. I'm so glad to be here. This is super exciting. All of the information so far that you've given everybody else has been very helpful. I've been busy taking notes on everything too. My business is a bit different than everyone else's. I have an actual physical product.
Wow.
And I sell, it's a baby product. So my customers are moms, first-time moms, pregnant women. Actually, sometimes my customers are second and third-time moms who are just finding my product, and they're like, thank you so much. Where were you the first time I had a baby? And so my biggest struggle, I think, though, is connecting how I want my brand to be perceived with how most brands are typically perceived. Like, I want to be connected with my customers, and I want it to be perceived as fun, stylish, and kind of hip and cool. And I want to make moms more happy. Like, I don't want to just like sell them a product. I want to help them like actually have fun, like being moms, because it's really challenging, and a lot of things we hear are like, it's so hard, and kids are the worst, and they're just, you know, and so I want it to be more positive. But I'm really struggling with how to do that, because when I go to the store and I buy something, I don't typically look for, I don't know, the story behind the products I buy. Does that make sense?
It does. Kirsten, can I see your product? Do you have that somewhere?
Like online or with me, like right now?
Oh, so
I have one. I have one here in my house. I can like I can show it to you.
Yeah, take me with you through your house. I want to see.
Yeah, you probably That's probably not a good
That's a very interesting painting you had there in the background. What's the story about that?
Yeah. Okay, we're going into the toy room.
Okay.
I will try to keep this off of the floor. Okay. Got one. Now let me figure out where I can put this computer down so that I can show it to you all. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Okay. So this is the product. It's cotton, just fabric. There's this hole right here. This goes over the baby car seat. So, you know, the baby sits in like the infant car seat that you, you know, carry around or whatever. Yeah. Okay. So this goes over it, kind of like a tent, basically, over your car seat. Yeah. But then when you're, for nursing moms, then you can take it off the car seat and then you can put it over your head and pull it down and use it as like a nursing cover.
Wow.
And then when your baby gets bigger and they can sit up and things, then you can use it as a cover for like a shopping cart. And when you go to the restaurant, high chair, like you put that over it so your baby isn't touching the, you know, the handle and the dirty seat and stuff.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love this product. So let me give you some advice. The advice I'm going to give you, Kirsten, is going to be a little bit complex. But you need to go through a couple of steps which are very important to follow the strategy I'm giving you right now.
Okay.
Your brand is not the logo, because no one will see that logo. What they'll see is this cover. And you need to make sure that the entire cover becomes your brand. So I have a theory. It's a theory developed in 1915. In 1915, the Coca-Cola company developed an external brief to its external manufacturer of bottles. They wanted to develop a bottle so smart that if you were to drop the bottle on the floor and would smash on the floor after pieces of glass, you'll still be able to pick up one piece of glass and recognize the brand. I call that philosophy for smash your brand, and that little device I call a Smashable. Now the reason why I tell you that is because if I take Tiffany's, I'm sure you know what color the Tiffany box is, right?
Right.
I'm sure that if I'm thinking about the McDonald's colors, you know what the colors are. If you think about the Beetle, what shape it is, or the Chanel bottle number 5, or whatever it is, all of those things have shapes. It has colors, it has patterns, it has sounds, it has smells. Now you need to develop your own distinct pattern, which you always are associated with. Now the pattern could be different, that's fine, but it all has to be in a synergy, so you always feel it's part of your storyline. It is your distinct Smashable. Because once you develop that, that becomes your signature print, that becomes your Smashable, your fingerprint on everything you do. Now the reason why you have to do this, Kirsten, is because we want that cover you're putting over the seat or the trolley or shopping cart to become an advertising in their own right. It has to come with a statement. Right now it's nice, but it does not have a statement. It's not screaming to the world, hey, talk to me, scream and talk to me, I want to interact with you. It needs to create even more curiosity, so women are coming up, mothers are coming up to you and they're saying, hey, what is that? I want to know more. Right now I don't get that feeling. And second, it's not so distinct. I'll think about you as a brand. I just think it's something you created in a nice way. Because step number 2 is going to be tricky. You need to get hold of celebrities. And if I was you, I would see if I could get hold of various people in Hollywood, or just young mothers who have just given, birth to a newborn baby. I know Tara Banks, she just got a new baby 2 weeks ago. Send it to her and say, hey, I think you should try this out. And don't ask for anything back, just ask her to use it. But because you own that pattern, that's Smashable, when there's a photo taken of Tara running around with a shopping cart and you have this baby there and she is going into supermarkets, I know that for sure because she's a good friend of mine, then you will notice there will be photos taken, and that means that she is indirectly advertising your brand, and that will change your image because suddenly celebrities is using it and they're spreading the word of mouth. Of course, your website needs to be succinct with it. You need to make sure that you now start to consistently communicate that pattern you have. So when I go into a baby store or a toy store or a supermarket or wherever you may or may not have distribution, then you have this pattern all over. So I link it together with what I've seen there. So that is step number 2. Step number 3 is you have to find partners you can team up with. And I would in particular say the good news here for you is that mothers which have a newborn baby are the most active people on planet Earth in social medias, in particular just before they're giving birth to the baby. So the curve is really like this. When they're told they have a newborn baby, is 7 months before they'll start to be incredibly active. And they will start to go up a lot. And the peak of the active behavior will be around 3 weeks before they're giving birth to the baby. And that stage they're doing what we call nesting. The nesting period is really where they're preparing everything, and this is the period where they'll buy this cover. This is where all the friends will buy the cover. So you need to find the websites which are supplying or which are catering for nesting moms. And that's where you do alliances with them. You give a free sample away. You show photos of fashion photos where people are running around with it, but they will have to drive traffic to you. You do competition, all that stuff. But that's probably the step 1, 2, 3 I would work with.
Okay. We have actually, I love the celebrity idea, and we've actually tried that a lot in the past. We've, written out their cute letter, gotten hold of their publicist, like talked to their assistants, like that whole thing. But we've never gotten an actual, like, photo of one used somewhere. We don't know if they ever actually like touched it. Like, we'll follow up and be like, did they get it? Yeah, they got it. I gave it to them.
Yeah, yeah.
But it has never actually like.
It's very simple what you do here. First of all, you have to be more aggressive. And the way you are more aggressive is you should not talk to the publicist. You should bypass them and go straight to people which they're surrounding themselves with. When I want to get hold of people which are celebrities, and sometimes we have to get hold of people, there's 2 things I'm doing. The first thing is I'm always writing handwritten letters to them. I always send things with a courier to them, so it's very important. I never ask for something back. The only thing I'm writing is, if you love this one, send me a note. That's the only thing I ask them for, right? It works in around 10% of the cases. The second thing I will do is I would basically spread this product to places where I know they're shopping or where they are very present. I mean, if you go to the LA area, you can almost predict what stores, particularly where the celebrities are shopping for the kids or where the nannies are shopping in particular, get hold of the nannies and go through the back door to them. I think your approach is right. I just think you're not aggressive enough, and I think you need to think through the back door rather than the front door, which is a publicist, because believe me, they won't do anything.
Okay.
So now I feel super special, Martin, because I got a handwritten letter from you.
You did, yeah. See, there we go. Yeah, I want to say to all of you guys listening, I'm writing 750 Christmas cards every year in hand. In fact, I'm beginning writing them next month, and then I write 5 cards every day, because here's the interesting thing. Everyone sends stupid emails, which is ending up in spam. I send out my Christmas cards, and every single person will remember it and save these cards. And I have some pretty cool cards I'm sending out, and it becomes a collection, and people are writing to me in hand if they haven't received my Christmas card. So I'm just saying, use channels which no one else is using. Right now, no one is using the letter, then no one is using couriers, no one is writing in hand. Go that way, because everyone is using emails because they're lazy. Don't do it. It's not working.
I know, and if you want to reach Martin, you cannot text him, so it has to be a letter.
Sorry, guys.
So thank you so much for spending an extra 30 minutes with us outside of the hour that we allocated, and all this wonderful advice. I know everybody here got so much value. I know I did. And let us tell them when they can win the 1-hour consultation with you and tickets to the World Forum Business Forum in New York City.
Yeah, by the way, on that, Preston, I just want to say that when you're winning, you will go with me backstage, by the way. So it's not just a seat in front. You will go with me backstage and follow me on stage because I'm doing the opening keynote speech at the World Business Forum in New York City. So you will join me live behind the scene. We have quite a lot of people attending. I think there's 6,000 people there. So I think it will be a fun exercise. So I hope that you guys will join me and pre-order the book and hopefully learn a little bit about small data.
Love it. So guys, we are starting today. We are launching Small Data Hunt today. It goes on until the end of March. So you have plenty of time to practice collecting clues, reading the book, playing with us, and hopefully meeting face-to-face behind-the-scene access with Martin in New York City. So thank you, Martin, once again. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. It has been a pleasure, and we'll see you on the website.
Bye, everyone.